So recently we had a client contact us and they needed, the usual like website, whatever. I think it would have been a cool project, but the problem was that the client just did not have the budget.
I think that happens a lot, that it's actually such a cool project that you really want to do, but then you have to like think for yourself, like, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
Like financially, obviously.
Yeah. And so we decided to refer someone else.
Yeah.
So basically give the client to another creative person.
Yeah.
Which we've done quite a few times in the past, I feel like.
Yeah, it's also pretty common practice.
It's happened to us too, the other way around, that someone has referred us, like a client to us, because they were either not able to take on the project because they didn't have the time or the budget was too low.
Yeah. Or also maintenance clients, I remember.
Yeah.
Being referred to and referring them to someone else.
Yes, because sometimes clients need maintenance after a project finishes and then the person who did the project isn't available anymore, or the prices are not okay for them or whatever. There can be different reasons for that.
But today we talk about the pricing reason.
Yeah, so it's a good thing to say no to clients if they don't have the budget for whatever the project is. Like if they're not able to afford you.
Yeah.
You should refer them to someone else. And it's something we learned because we didn't do that many times. And every single time it was a mistake.
Yeah, we took on too many clients also, to be fair.
No, but I can think of two specifically where we took them on and the project dragged on really long.
Yeah.
The budget did not reflect the timeline. It was a complete loss, and we also didn't even have anything to show for it at the end because it wasn't even something that we wanted to put in our portfolio at that point. So I'm not talking about the projects you do when you just start off and you price them low and then you have something for your portfolio. I'm talking about the projects that you do when you've established yourself more and you should be asking for a certain price, and you shouldn't reduce the price just because the client can't pay you. If you do take on the project, you have to change the scope, which I've also said before. But I guess for us, the price is a boundary that we aren't going to budge on.
Yeah, we are a small team. We can't afford to take on clients that can't afford us. Like it's not really, it's a lot of times it's projects we really want to do.
The thing is, when the price is low, you have to mass produce it for it to be profitable. And it's hard to mass produce services.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to mass produce when you're 1 or 2 people or even 3 people. You need a whole team. And I think that agency prices on the one hand are going to be higher because they have higher fixed costs, but they also have the opportunity to take on lower budget clients because they have the team to handle it.
For sure, yeah.
So I feel like they have more of a range of what they can take on. Whereas when you're a one person thing, I don't think that that's ever really sustainable.
You mean to take on projects below a certain budget?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. It's also something we preach all the time.
Yeah.
Of course, we also talk about reasons you could take them on. Like, for example, if it is for your portfolio or it gives you another type of value that's beyond money.
Yeah.
But if it's really just the money and you wanting to do that, then it's really difficult to make this decision to say, okay, no, I cannot take this on. I have to refer this to someone else. I'm talking about projects you want to do, because a lot of times it's about projects you actually want to do.
I also feel like once you have your boundaries on your prices, the sales call and the negotiations around the price are so different. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like at the beginning, our negotiations were always like, this is how it went. It was like the client was like, so how much does it cost? And then we were like, well, how much do you want to pay? Kind of thing. Like, we didn't use those exact words, but it was more like, what's your budget? And it's this back and forth where no one wants to talk about the price.
Yeah.
And it's because you want to get a certain amount out of it, but you also don't want to scare the client off in case it's too high. Like, you're always constantly scared about scaring them off. And then the client doesn't want to tell you their actual budget because they're hoping to get a good deal out of you.
Yeah.
So honestly, the whole talking about the price on both sides ends up being, and I'm going to use a word you don't like, unprofessional because both sides are scared to talk about money, which shouldn't be the case because it's a business transaction. And when you go into a store and you ask how much is this, someone's going to tell you it's this amount. And that's the only way that you know whether you want to buy it or not, or if you can afford it. And it's the same thing with creative services. And now that we have our prices, we will say, if a client asks us what is the price, we'll usually be like, well, we need to find out more about it. We'll ask a lot of questions, but we will tell them we don't do anything under this amount.
Yeah,
like
so
the
even if it's
starting
small
price.
projects, like sorry, we have to at least charge this amount for us to take this project on, even if it doesn't make sense in terms of scope and requirements. For us, this is the minimum price. We cannot sell it below that.
Yeah, and there are other what's the word?
Say it in German. Maybe I can help this time.
Berufe.
The other professions.
Yes.
Okay.
There are other professions where it's totally normal to do that.
Yeah, like a plumber.
Yeah, they have a starting price. Electricians will also charge you something for even just driving over to your place, and they have like a fixed amount for different regions. That would be the starting price for them because them even coming over to your place is already costing money for them.
Yeah.
And then tattoo artists, they have a certain amount they charge because it doesn't make sense for them to set everything up, clean everything for you to come, and then it be something that takes 10 minutes.
Yeah, I saw people actually being annoyed about that. Like, I just want something really small. Why does it cost me, I don't know, $200? And then people were like, yeah, because I have to set everything up. I don't know too much about the tattoo business. I think you're better worse than me. But it's about like also the materials you have to use just for this one-time little thing.
Yeah, you have to throw everything away. Exactly. Everything's like one-time use for it to be hygienic. So you use, obviously the machine isn't, but everything attached to it is.
Yeah.
And you have to set all of that up. That costs money. It's not cheap either because it's a one-time product. You have to have a lot of it in stock as well to offer your services. And then also just like preparing for it. Even if it's something small, you still have to draw it. You still have to do the stencil. There's a lot that goes into it that people don't realize. And yes, okay, the actual tattooing might only take 10 minutes. And I've had tattoos only take 10 minutes because they were so small. But I never thought about everything else until I did like a course on tattooing, and I realized it is so much work to just even clean everything before getting like the place ready for someone to sit down.
Yeah.
And for it to be as hygienic as possible. So
I mean, we can take that example and put it onto our work, our profession. There's a lot that goes into I don't know, designing a website. It's not just not just quotation marks, sitting down and doing a design in Figma. There's like a lot around it that a lot of people ignore.
Yeah, so recently I was actually going over the designs that our designer had done and preparing the file for handoff. And we have a certain quality that we work towards, that we give our clients. And I think that does go into also why our prices are what they are. And obviously, because the prices are high, I want to be able to give clients that quality. So our designer is not as experienced as I am. So I go over the designs and then I make sure they are really like what I would want the client to get from us. Basically. Yeah, quality control. And I realized while doing that, I'm super fast. When I set up a file and I'm the one that sets up the file and I'm the one that does everything from like beginning to the end.
Yeah.
It's very efficient. It's all very I'm very fast. But if I take on a design from somebody else and I have to go back and do a lot of the things that they didn't do when they set it up to make sure that it's consistent and the quality is there, it takes a long time and it's really a lot of effort. And even if you're doing it yourself and you're setting it up correctly the first time, all that whole setup takes so long. The designing after is actually the fast part, and the creativity is the fast part. But keeping everything organized, making sure it's set up consistently, that takes time and a lot of effort. And I think that's something people don't think about. They think we just go into the file, we make some text boxes, we make some backgrounds, we add some images, and that's it.
And that could also derive from people actually just doing that.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of people do that because they don't have the experience, or they've never had somebody show them how to do it properly. Like our designer, she doesn't have a lot of experience. I don't expect her to do it the way I would do it. Yeah. But a part of my job is to show her that, and she'll learn that over time. But that's the thing, is there is a quality difference, and that's also where the price difference comes in.
So in fact, quality takes time. And therefore, even if we do like a small website, it's really, really high quality, and it's going to take longer. It's going to have more like a bigger process than just sitting down, doing the deliverable, handing it over, saying, okay, give me your feedback.
Yeah.
There's so much more that goes on, especially in the client management, especially in the project management, that we do even for small clients, because it's important for us that they get an end product that they really truly love, and that they get an end product they can actually edit, they can work with, they can scale up. Like all of that is thought of when we do a project.
Yeah, that's the other thing, the longevity of it. So we always talk about sustainable design, and the way that we work is sustainable. And what we mean by that is not that we're like CO2 neutral or whatever. It's not about the environment. It's actually about the fact that something is able to be used for a long time.
Yeah.
And with small changes, so with little effort. And it's so funny, I was talking to you about this yesterday. So I went into a file I had created probably over a year now, where I needed to do something for the same client again. And I needed, it was a website project. So I had set up everything, the colors, the text styles, and none of that changed. Obviously, the website still has the same font sizes and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I go into this file thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to do the whole setup and whatever. And I found that past me did all of that. And it meant that my job now, in present me, was so much easier because everything had already been set up. So I could just go in there and start designing, putting images in, creating text boxes and all that stuff, because I already had everything there that I had set up ages ago. And that's the thing that we do, is we do everything that we do, whether it's the design or the development, we set it up in a way that anybody can come in later down the line, add something to it, and it's not going to be this huge level of effort to do that. It's really going to be a small maintenance task.
Also another reason why it's difficult for us to charge hourly, because once everything is set up, things go faster.
Yeah.
So
yeah, let's talk about that for a second, because the one thing, the downside to that is that you would get less money because you've set it up so efficiently that now your job down the line is really quick and really easy.
Like the clients may not even need you because they can edit the content, they can maybe build out new components.
Yeah, so you have to add all that value in either at the beginning when you price it, because part of the value is that they can just edit it all themselves and they're never going to have to need you again. You basically made yourself obsolete.
Yeah.
Or your job is going to be so easy you can't charge a lot for it later on. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't charge a lot. So what happens is we would usually charge our hourly rate, but we do add a value to that, because I'm super fast, but someone else wouldn't be that fast. I know they wouldn't be, not even with our setup, just because I'm someone who's fast. So, but that's valuable to them because they get their things really quickly. Yeah. They write me, hey, we need this, and they get it a few days later. Like, not everyone can do that. So obviously that has value as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, but let's go back to since we're talking about not taking on projects below a certain amount, that's not really about maintenance. It's about building the project, building the client relationship, setting up a project, everything that goes into it. And we did take on projects below the budget, below the minimum budget that we had, because we assumed it's going to be a quick project. And in terms of requirements and scope, it was actually a quick project. But in terms of client management, project management, and everything that happened around the execution suddenly took forever, because it was not only about the requirements and scope, and everything we do at such a high quality with the project and the account management, that it's gonna take us more time than just like a week to throw out a website, even though we could do it. Like from our skill set, we can do it. We can just create a quick website and show it to them and like give us feedback. It goes online tomorrow. But that's usually not the process that the clients want, or at least not the ones that we work with.
Yeah, so we talked about how quality of work will change how the execution happens and how that would then also affect the price or the minimum price, let's say. And again, that's all like to do with execution. And that's what we were thinking about back then when we had other prices, is about the execution and about our end of things. And I don't think it's even about what the client wants. It's about what actually happens in reality.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of clients, they would want it to go online in 2 weeks. How many
Yeah,
clients did we have come to us and they're like, oh, if you can get it on tomorrow, lol, lol. Like, obviously they were joking about it. But yeah, you could tell they actually really wanted it to go as fast as possible.
Yeah, that's actually what I meant. I just put it in a super complicated way.
Yeah. But to come back to everything that goes along with the execution, the process is never fast. Even if we, yes, like you said, could do it that quickly, it doesn't ever end up being that fast because the clients will always have feedback. They always have a lot of questions about what is the final product going to be like? What is their experience going to be like managing that? There's a lot of back and forth sometimes between the client and somebody else, and we're waiting on that. Sometimes there's another app or something you have to add to the website, for example, which we're not involved in, and they have to talk to a completely different team about that. And then we all have to coordinate. And this all just takes so much time. It sometimes takes weeks just to hear back. So it's unrealistic, even if it's a quick website that you're doing in Framer or some kind of no code thing.
We've never had that before.
It never happens.
Never. Like, even if it's a small project and it's like usually not on us.
No.
Like, sure, also like with the management part, like it might take longer, the whole setup, whatever, but we can get it done in a week. Like, that's not a problem. But usually they think they want it, but then they don't actually want it. They want it to be online in a week, yes. But then once they also have to do work. Because
that's the thing.
Exactly. They have to put in the content. Like talking about websites.
And if they're not putting in the content, they have to provide you with that content. Exactly. And sometimes they haven't even done it yet. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes it's actual photos that they haven't even taken yet of their product.
Yeah, like there's a lot that they also have to like deliver, which is like often forgotten about.
Yeah, I remember back when we did Kylie Swim, we finished that really fast.
Yeah.
And we were waiting weeks for them because they still had to do the photo shooting of the products. So that's just it. The website was ready to go for ages, but they just didn't have the content.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time. That's most of the time the thing at the end of a project that's like holding everything up is the content. Yeah. And you have nothing to do with that. Your hands are tied, but you have to wait until it launches to write your final invoice, for example.
Exactly.
So you really do have to think about the timeline and think about it realistically. And that's why also our prices are a certain price, like a minimum price that we don't go under, because we just know that these things are going to take a minimum of like 2 months, 3 months.
Yeah, that sounds a lot. But then when you're in it, suddenly it just like keeps on dragging on.
Yeah.
And it's like you need to take that into account. And we had to learn that because when we were thinking about the execution and pricing the project, of course we thought, okay, we're going to be done with this in a month. And we would have been done with it in a month if it was just us doing this project. But it's never just you doing this project. It's a symbiosis. I don't know how to say. Like it's a collective effort.
Yeah.
Like you both work on it.
And other things happen. People go on holiday. People get sick. People have other things to do, and then they forget to write you back. You know, clients are busy people too, and things just always drag on. I would always feel like if you're not experienced and you don't know how long something's going to take, either double or triple what you think it's going to take, and that's probably more realistic than your first gut feeling.
We should have done that in the beginning.
Yeah. And our prices would have been different because it would have reflected the more realistic timeline.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like almost like lying to yourself, because this is like the best case scenario and that's what you're pricing it.
Yeah.
But it's usually whenever is it really the best case scenario that's gonna happen.
And even now, like we've been working on a project for quite a while now that we priced very high, and the price is fine, and also the level of effort is fine. It's all fine. But even now I'm getting to that point where I'm like, this needs to end soon, because otherwise I feel like it's not worth the money anymore.
Yeah.
And it has to do with the timeline. I feel like timelines are so important for you to have also this feeling of this was worth that money.
Also, you usually don't get paid until the project is finished. Like, obviously, hopefully, you have installments, as in not installments.
Installments. Like
Okay.
we have 4.
Yeah. So is it called installments?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have 4 installments. One that we charge before the project starts to hold calendar time. Then we have one once the project starts, and with that we collected around 50%. Depending, but usually that's our
Before
process.
we've done anything.
Exactly, so 50%. Then we have another invoice in the middle of the project, and then we have one at the end. So usually when we start to hand off, when we wrap everything up, we already sent the invoice.
Yeah.
But the final invoice, even though if you look at the other installments, it's probably like a really small percentage. With really big projects, it's like even the small percentage is a high value.
Yeah, it's still a lot of money.
Exactly. And since we are a small studio, we don't work on 1 million projects at the same time. So we need to be like really careful what we take on.
Yeah, and then we need to be careful about timelines so that this still makes sense for us.
Exactly.
We can't take too many things on at a time. So I think it's also important to remember if you have like a starting price, that starting price needs to make sense for the timeline. So let's say your starting price is 5,000. Your fixed costs per month are like 2,000. That means that 5,000 will hold you over for 2 months. Yeah. So that project can't take longer than 2 months. However, if you can handle 2 of those projects at the same time, it can take longer than 2 months, because then you have 10, let's say you have 2 of those 5,000 projects, so now you have 10,000. Those 2 projects could go on for a longer time at the same time. And you would meet your fixed costs for, what's 10,000 divided by 2? 5 months. Yeah. So then those 2 projects could take you 5 months.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You have to always think about your fixed costs, actually, when it comes to the pricing.
Yeah.
Because if you have that one project, that 5,000 project, and that took 5 months, that's a loss.
Yeah.
In every single month.
Yeah, for sure. Also, I mean, if you don't even take the profit and everything else into equation, let's just say breaking even.
Yeah, I was just talking about breaking even.
Exactly, we're just talking about breaking even here. There is no profit written. This is just.
I'm assuming your fixed costs includes your profit, but
yeah.
So exactly, that's the thing is we didn't think about any of that at the beginning, and things dragged on for a really long time. And it was obviously you develop a feeling for this wasn't worth it.
Yes.
And when you run the numbers, you realize it was really, really, really bad.
It was super bad.
Yeah.
I don't even know how, like, if we didn't do the sheer amount of projects that we did, we would have been like so dead. Our company would have died, let's be honest.
Yeah, those prices weren't enough for the timelines.
They weren't enough for the timelines.
But again, it was okay because we had so many projects happening at the same time. So them dragging on that long didn't matter because we were able to handle all these other projects at the same time.
Yeah.
That's what I meant by
for sure. Yeah.
The fixed price. I know.
It's like I always like try to add like really everything onto it to give like the full picture, but it's like almost impossible.
I know.
No.
So that's the thing is we have our fixed price, like we don't go under this amount kind of price, but it's a little bit arbitrary because it really does depend. Do we have other projects right now?
Exactly.
Does it make sense for us financially?
Exactly.
And in some cases, like if we have a lot of projects going on at the same time, firstly, we probably wouldn't even take it on at all because we'd be like, we're fully booked.
Yeah.
But secondly, I think we would also only take it on if it's a lot of money, because then we'd be like, okay, we
need to like get more resources.
We'll get more resources, and with that budget, we're able to book more resources, and then it's fine.
Yeah, but usually that's a very edge case situation that someone is coming with a really high budget and you're like, okay, let's plan that in.
Yeah, but we've had that happen recently.
Yeah.
And that's what we were planning on doing.
Yeah, for sure. No.
So, and I think that's something to remember too, is that if you have a lot going on, it makes even less sense to do something under your minimum.
That's actually a good opportunity to try a higher price, a higher minimum.
Yeah,
it's
because
I would take it on for maybe 10, I'm just saying something, okay? Maybe 5 times the amount. because then it might make sense for me, even if it's going to be stressful and I would have like a, I don't know, like super stressful 3 months, but maybe for like that kind of a price, I don't know, just testing the waters of what you can do when you negotiate. I don't know, if you can take those projects also to grow.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people would think the opposite. They would think, oh, I have these two big budget projects happening right now and they're sustaining me well and I'm making a lot of money with them. And someone comes along and they're like, oh, I need a website, but I only have this amount. And it's like half of what you would usually charge. There's no way to change the scope, whatever.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people would be like, oh, but I'm doing so well right now. I might as well do this for less. And that's the wrong thing to do. That's a big mistake. And that's what we did a couple of times too. And every single time we regretted it because it means you have less time and energy for those other clients that actually deserve more of your time and energy because they're paying you more. So you have all this pressure to deliver with those high paying clients, and then you have this resentment towards the lower paying client and you're like, oh, they're not paying me that much anyway, like,
and then you like lose the quality because you're
exactly,
whatever, because they're not paying much anyways, then they're just gonna get that.
Exactly. And it's not good for you either to be really stressed out and overworked because of a low paying client that you wouldn't have taken on usually anyway, just to have that extra like couple thousand from like a small project. It doesn't make sense. It would be better to not have that money and have more time for yourself, have more time to go on holiday or whatever, than to do that, in my opinion.
Yeah, my opinion too, because we literally had a burnout because we were doing those things. Like, obviously you want to hold up the quality that you usually give for the other clients. That's why they booked you. But if your quality decreases, they might not book you again.
Yeah, and I feel like it's just it's putting your client in a weird position.
Yeah, that too.
Because they're paying an amount that you agreed to.
Yeah.
But then deep down you're thinking, but they're not paying me what I'm actually worth.
Yeah, and I hate that feeling because one thing that we do have, which is sometimes annoying, is that we have a very high sense of responsibility. So even if they don't pay us well, we try to maintain, obviously, the quality that we promised. We still treat it as a high budget project, but also that's the issue because they don't have you don't have the resources to treat them as such.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it super difficult. It puts everyone in a bad position. They don't get what they think was agreed on. The other clients might feel like neglected, and you are like in this weird position of, I don't know, having a burnout.
Yeah.
I'm talking from a trauma here. Like, there's literally things that happen to us, and I don't know, because if I could go back in time, I would be like, don't take this on, don't take that on, don't take that on, just don't do it. You're gonna be fine.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fine. It's gonna be all okay.
So I think two of the most important lessons we learned was, one, having a starting price and not doing anything below that price, and really not doing it. If we do it, do something.
Scope it down
So it fits that price.
Yeah.
And the other thing we learned was that timelines matter and that things shouldn't drag on longer than you agreed upon.
Yeah.
And that the price, even though we don't do hourly rates and we don't calculate our price based on the hours we work on it, I mean, roughly, but not really. It's more of a value-based price. Either way, it does need to be in relation to how long it's going to take in some way.
Yeah, because even though it maybe isn't a lot of hours in those months, you still need to plan your resources into that project.
Yeah.
And if it drags and drags on, even if it's just a few hours here, a few hours there, you still need to block that time.
It bleeds into every project that happens after that.
Yeah.
Like, it'll drag on, then you've already started another project that you agreed to start at that time. And this other project has now like taken over that time, or is still there like in the background. And it again takes away your time and energy from the client you actually should be putting all your energy into.
Yeah.
So I feel like those were the two most important things we learned about pricing was, the relevance of the timeline and how that relates also to your fixed costs and your monthly costs and making profit and all that. And also just saying no to things.
Yeah, the saying no to things is for me like the biggest learning.
Being like, this is our price. that should be the basis of the conversation that you have with a client, not like what I was saying earlier in this episode. Like, what did I say? It was always like
this poker game. Like, I'm revealing my cards only when you reveal your cards.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm hoping to win.
Exactly.
But it's like a win-win. Both should feel like they're winning.
Exactly. And it's a business transaction, and talking about money is a normal thing to do.
Yeah.
And you do that in every other area of your life. Like when I went to look at dishwashers, I had a budget in mind, and I looked at, oh, this one would actually be really good, but it was like way over my budget. And I was like, okay, fine. Then I guess I have to go with this other one that has less features.
Yeah.
You know, that's just how it is. And it's the same thing with your services. If the client can't afford the really expensive dishwasher, then they have to go for the a little bit cheaper one that has less functionality.
Yeah. I think though that was probably, it's also what you said in the beginning, that the fear of losing the client.
Yeah.
That was higher than maybe that client actually not being profitable for you. I don't know why, but I think that back in the days we had like more like the more clients, the better, because the more clients equal more money. But that's not actually true. You can make more money with less clients if you do it right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're literally doing that right now. So it is possible. And it's so great for everyone involved. Your mental health, the clients you're working with. Like, I feel like that's the biggest win-win you can
The
offer.
final product is also, in terms of the quality and the sustainability of it, it's like night and day to what we were doing at the beginning.
Like, this was really just like, I'm so happy
It was
we
just
don't
getting
need to maintain those anymore.
back then it was just like getting something out there that was functional.
Yeah.
And that we were able to do, and it looked good, and no one even knew what it was like in the background. And it didn't matter because it was stuff that didn't need to be maintained anyway.
No.
But now our focus is on maintainability and being able to use these products for a long time.
And those on
The
bigger,
quality has to be really high.
of course, yeah.
So it makes sense that our prices start at a certain amount. It doesn't matter what the scope is.
Yeah.
Because just the effort that goes into all of that, thinking about all of that, is already that value.
Yeah. And setting it up right. And I don't know. I feel like a lot of people can do a website really quick, but it takes someone with experience, and it takes a lot of willpower and saying, okay, no, I actually want to do this right.
Yeah.
And set everything up in a way where it's like sustainable, it's scalable, it's like a good experience for the client, it's a good experience for you when you work on it again in the future. And that setup takes time. That's arguably, for me, at least in the development process, that's what takes up most of my time, the setup.
Yeah, same. No, it's the same in the design.
Yeah, the rest is like, okay, because the setup is so good, the rest is like, I don't know, way quicker than if I would have just done every component.
It does need willpower, because I remember when I was going in and editing some of these designs and getting them ready to show to the client, there was a couple of things missing that I had to design.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, my first instinct was like, I'll just do it quick.
Yeah, me too. Like, oh, whatever, just quickly.
Just so it's ready to show the client, and I'll go back after. But then I was like, no.
I'm not going back after.
No, because future Rebecca's going to hate me if I do that. So I took the time and I set everything up properly. I made the components. I made them like, you know, linked them properly. Made everything like ready so that I can go back. When I go back to look at it again, I can edit it properly.
Yeah.
And I don't have to do that after the fact.
Yeah, but I think that we have more time for that now also.
Yeah.
Like, talking from the development perspective, there was no time for that.
No, there was no time.
We just had
and
to,
not
like,
even
really,
in the design either.
Not even in the design, and imagine in the development.
Yeah.
And it was like, it just makes it way more difficult to maintain. And now that we have more time, like the projects can be set up in like such a great way.
Yeah.
Like, it's whenever I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's so great. I don't know.
Same. When I go
Super
back,
happy working on it.
when I go back to something that I have to work on again, I'm like, oh wow, I really did a good job here.
Exactly. Same for me.
Yeah. But that's only possible because our prices are what they are.
Exactly. So we can take our time.
Yeah.
To do those things and put in the effort to do those things. So yeah, I feel like it's a win-win for everyone.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Never Went to Business School. Don't forget to follow us here on Spotify. And if you enjoy our content, check out our YouTube channel for more educational videos and subscribe to our newsletter on Substack.